All right, I'm going to stay where I am. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, good. Listen, before we do anything else, I do want to point out that this is the end of Gay Pride Month. On Sunday, we are now Thursday. On Sunday is the big New York City parade. It's now huge. It's something that I used to attend. I never marched in it, but I certainly went and saw it. I don't do that anymore because it's a little hard for me to get out, but it's become rather enormous, and I fear a bit commercial because now different groups sponsor floats. Even so, it's great. It is marker of certainly a passing of time. Going back to the years when there was nothing called Gay Pride, now there's a lot. And I noticed, by the way, that this month, any number of different establishments that really have nothing to do with the gay world are marking the occasion, of the Gay Pride Month. So anyway, good for the guys who and the girls who create this and march in it, and it's a wonderful moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm running in the LGBTQ race.
Oh yeah.
For New York Roadrunners. Yeah, they do a race, and I think it's in Central Park. But
maybe
Sarah
the day before or something.
On Sunday.
Oh, that's Sunday.
Yeah, morning though, like early. I think it starts at 7:30 or 8 a.m.
Sure.
Yeah, so we're both running in it this year.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's good. But yeah, it's a good way to start it. How you been? It's been 2 weeks.
I've been very well, thank you. How about you? We missed each other last week.
I know. No, I'm good. I'm really good. I'm just training for the marathon. It's been exhausting.
Yeah, well, you have a way to go until November.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have to train a lot more. I am not a marathon runner yet. But
You're going to be.
Yeah,
Okay.
At least a single marathon runner. Not a marathons runner, but yeah. So what are we talking about today?
We are talking, Mickey, about schools. Schools. I, of course, did a little thinking about the word, which I like to do. In French, it's école. In Spanish, it's escuela. They all relate to each other. And the word school, of course, is a noun, but it is flexible into a verb form, as in, he is schooled in the art of fencing, let's say, or in the art of baseball. And then it becomes a verb. He is schooled, meaning he is trained or learned in something, in the art of something.
Or to get schooled, which is a sort of like a slang term, usually used in sports. It basically means to embarrass someone.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Like
What is it again?
If I were to school you in basketball, that basically means I made you look like you don't know how to play. I'm schooling you. It's like I'm teaching you how to actually play.
That's new to me. Good.
Yeah, it's you don't want to get schooled by someone.
Huh. Because that's sort of the opposite of being schooled in, meaning being expert in.
Yeah, well, to be schooled in a subject, for example, is, like it means that you have spent a lot of time and you're very well learned in that subject.
Yeah.
To be schooled by somebody is that they are teaching you. So in sports, if somebody that you're playing against in basketball or hockey or whatever, if they school you, it basically means that they're showing you that they're better than you, and now they're teaching you how to actually play, because you clearly don't know how. So it's
What experience do you have with that?
With getting schooled?
Well, with that kind of word.
Oh, in general? Well, yeah. I mean, my entire education experience has, you know, regular old formal education, but it's changed a lot now since I graduated, and certainly since before I graduated college. I mean,
Sure. We all have experience with schools, that's for sure.
Well, yeah. What are you asking?
Well, anything you want to throw in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my first thought about schooling in general is how it's changed so much now.
Okay.
In the sense that when you were growing up, and for generations after as well, to go to college, to go to higher education, was one of the most important things that you could do in order to secure a good job and be able to have a good salary and take care of a family and buy a home and be respected by your peers, be educated. And for generations before you as well. I mean, it's always been so important, but now it's changed a lot because the accessibility to education has grown so much that and college has become such of a racket that needing to go to college to secure any kind of financial stability is almost it's almost completely unnecessary now. People who graduate,
so I've heard, yes.
Yeah, people who graduate from college now, firstly, most likely still won't have any access to financial stability, and those who don't go to college at all have so much opportunity outside of education to find careers and jobs and take care of families and buy homes. Although buying homes is a whole separate subject we could talk about another time. But I think with YouTube, for example, I mean, so many of the most esteemed professors at some of the most esteemed universities and colleges in the country have free lectures on YouTube.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, you can go and listen to great professors and professionals in their whatever field just do lectures for free on YouTube. So you don't even need to have a Yale degree in order to get a Yale education, for example.
Is that something, well, okay, this is new for me, something for which they are being paid, or they are doing this as a volunteer?
Just sharing the information. I mean, I'm sure some are subscription based, or you could buy lectures and buy packages of semester information or something, but a lot of them they just do lectures, or they'll just take the time to teach some subject on YouTube in a video, share it with people. But yeah, it's not like it used to be. With the internet now, you can learn anything you want as long as you choose to learn it.
Yeah, and you're very good at seeking that out too. I know you are.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely try. I didn't get into Yale, so.
Well, more and more one hears that trade training, mechanics, plumbers, electricians, those people are earning very good salaries, and it's a very smart avenue for people, for whatever reason, are not in traditional colleges or universities. And the feeling about those kinds of trade jobs, I think, is different from when I was in school. Then it might have been thought of, you could sneer your nose a bit at guys and girls who went into those fields. That's not so much anymore.
Yeah.
Because they're doing very well.
Well, yeah, it's as technology keeps increasing and growing and, sort of being more pervasive in different industries, people are losing their jobs, and most of them are technological jobs. So people who are coding now are doing very well, but in 10 years, coders might be obsolete because of artificial intelligence. And, you can't teach a computer how to install plumbing in your house. It's something that people will always have to be able to do. Plumbing, construction.
When I went through elementary and junior and high school, it was assumed that I would go to college, and in fact it was certainly what I wanted to do and did do. And everybody that I knew, pretty much the same thing. I went away to college. That was a little different from others whom I knew who tended to stay closer to home. But the idea of going to college, it was assumed that the people that I knew, that's what they would do.
Yeah.
And that's what we would do, and it was what I would do and did do. And I did, and of course I'm very glad I did, because it was a wonderful time in my life. What about you?
I'm certainly glad that I did. I mean, I was very, very fortunate, and among a very small population of people who don't have debt from college.
Yes, sure.
I'm not in debt, which is, I'm very, very grateful for that. I had a great experience at both the colleges that I attended.
Yeah.
I think that it grew me up a lot in some different ways. I think I probably could have grown up in other different and important ways had I not gone. I think a lot of the time now, especially because, kids don't mature as early as they did when you were probably growing up. There's so much coddling of children now that most of the time people in my generation and younger, they will live with their parents at home after college for 3, 4, 5 years before they move out of the house and get a job and whatever. Sometimes until they're 30 years old.
But that's because of economics, right?
Yes. It's certainly, there's a lot of extenuating circumstances for why it's happening, but at the same time, the result is the same in that children stay children for longer. They don't grow up quite as fast. And I think, had I not gone to college and had to go, well, this is one of the reasons that I'm very much for civil service after high school. I think it should be mandatory, like in other countries, that you take 1 year after high school and do some kind of civil service.
I would agree with that, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be military, but it could be anything. Yeah. And I think it should be mandatory that it's out of your state, so you have to travel to go somewhere and be somewhere else.
I agree.
For a year. And then if you want to go to college after that, then you can go to college. But the independence that is required to live away from home and not be in a university campus, which is basically a giant embryo, for kids to push back or procrastinate having to grow up for some time. And so many colleges just kind of become party opportunities to party and be reckless, and it's the first time you're not under your parents' thumb, so now you can drink whenever you want, you can do drugs, you can stay out all night, you don't have to go to class. And I certainly indulged in that the first time I was at college. I was very reckless and immature and excited to do all the things I couldn't do when I was home, and so I indulged in party scene, and then it took me a while to realize I'm wasting an opportunity here to learn and grow.
Yes, but on the other hand, it's a wonderful time of life. Mm-hmm. It doesn't hurt you. It may postpone reality for a while. It did that for me. I had little part-time jobs when I was at Northwestern. It seems to me I worked in the library for a while. But mostly it was fun, and it was wonderful. And I have nothing but good memories from that. Had I not had that, those would be different memories. I don't know that that's necessarily bad. Also, in my case, there was a military draft going on, and while you were in school, you were exempt. The moment you were out of school, you were not exempt. Huh. And you were called up to be checked out, and either you passed or you did not pass, and you were drafted or you were not drafted, depended on your physical situation.
And that happened to you, right, when you graduated?
Yes, absolutely.
So you graduated and went straight?
Well, not straight, but it was maybe the better part of a year later. I was called. I went for a physical. I remember my friend Tommy and we were called at the same time. And he did not qualify, and I can't remember why. something physical with him, but I did qualify. Uh, hardly any great physical specimen, but great enough that they wanted me, and they got me, and I don't regret that. I regretted it then. I thought,
Yeah.
oh, this is not fair, you know.
Were you scared? when it
Sure,
happened?
of course.
Yeah.
I was very spoiled. And what did I know about? And Korea was still going on, and I was sent to El Paso for basic training, which was awful. You know, the hot desert and walking, carrying a rifle on your shoulder, and duty cleaning latrines and kitchens and stuff, which as it turned out was better than marching across the desert. You were lucky if you got latrine duty.
Yeah. Oh God.
So that was the beginning of a couple of year experience.
Yeah. When were you deployed?
It was around April of 1954.
And talk about being schooled. That's being schooled in the real world pretty quick.
To be sure.
Outside of
And it's interesting also that one of the big differences is that everybody then was smoking. Now, very few people are smoking.
probably not the best for your physical endurance.
No, but it was very common,
Yeah.
and it was thought perfectly fine. So you would go out. I mean, it was ridiculous, really. You would go out marching, and then you would have a break, and you would take out a cigarette,
And then march again.
and then
in the
march some
desert.
more, and then again and again. And
Oh my gosh.
but of course, nobody knew that this was bad for you,
Yeah, yeah.
and of course, it was very bad indeed. Do you think that you would ever like to be on the other side? You would like to be the teacher?
Maybe. I haven't considered it much, the idea of, being in a classroom and teaching kids or young adults about something in particular. I think I'm more, maybe one day, I'm more interested in doing workshops on a given topic, as a sort of life coach and artist. I do workshops now that are really centered toward self-awareness and learning how to authentically communicate through art and just through words, through art, but like really just trying to connect with yourself and what you're actually feeling, and then being able to articulate it, because I think a lot of people have difficulty.
But you would be leading those, and in a sense, you would be teaching.
Leading workshops, yeah, and then having collaborative exercises that happen in the workshops with the audience or anyone who comes, and then doing something like a demonstration or something, and then ending it with I'm doing a workshop on July 11th with Sarah at this creator space downtown, and we're gonna do. It's kind of going to be about that. It's sort of reconnecting with the child self and learning how not to be judgmental when you're creating art. And then she's gonna lead it off with a meditation, so everybody sort of centers themselves. And then I'm gonna give a brief lecture about sort of the subject matter. Then we're gonna do an exercise together, and then we'll have a sort of a Q&A or a talk back group session where we'll talk about what we made. Yeah, so we're gonna do that, and then just keep doing things like that. I like the idea of teaching, but I don't really want to call it teaching. It's more like sharing. Like I don't know if there's anything in particular I could teach to somebody else. I don't know if I'm schooled enough in any subject to be able to teach it yet, but I certainly think that I can share the pieces of the puzzle that I have picked up, and hopefully exchange them with pieces that other people have picked up along the way.
Yes, yes. My experience was really very odd. I went through college. I went through the Army, a little bit of graduate school, with the plan of going into business, international business, which I did. And the idea of teaching never entered my mind even the tiniest bit. But it is where I ended up. After realizing that the business world did not accommodate me very well, and I did not fit as well as I thought I would, as well I thought I did in the beginning, and wanted to. But it was misguided a little bit, and yet, if I had not done that, if I had not been in advertising and marketing, I would not realize that it was not right for me. I had to go through that, which I don't regret.
Yeah.
And when I ended up almost by default in teaching, it's kind of an odd resort. It worked better.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were people, and no few people, teachers who had never done anything else, and their view was very narrow.
Yeah.
Very narrow. The world is not all a classroom,
Yeah.
And if we were supervised by a department chairperson, which we were, teachers, those other people would resent it, and I thought, gosh, that's a breeze. You don't know what it's like to be supervised by somebody who you really don't like, and who is being very unfair. So.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think I know another reason that I feel like college has its issues is that all the teachers in any university they've only ever been teachers. In order to become a university professor, you kind of have to spend most of your life in education to be able to do it. And I think that is, it's, I mean, certainly there's exemptions to that. There's so many scientists who end up teaching at a school about the laboratory that they were conducting experiments in or something, but
that's because they were famous already.
Yeah, or practicing psychologists who decided to take up teaching as well after a career, after a private practice or something. But overall, I do think that what you said, the narrow-mindedness of people who spend their lives in education, it exists now in all of the colleges. I think, and I liken it to acting. A lot of actors spend their whole life just hanging out with actors and just taking acting classes and just doing the acting thing. And if you want to be a good actor, never mind a successful actor, that takes a little bit more luck, but if you want to be a good actor, you have to spend some time working in construction or some time, doing other things that aren't acting. Because if you really want to understand the kinds of characters you'll be playing, almost none of the characters you're going to play are actors,
That's true.
So you have to spend a lot of time with real people who live outside of the world of the arts. And I think that the arts is a really insular community.
Do you think that acting can be taught?
Yes, absolutely. I think my teachers in acting were phenomenal. They're all great teachers and great actors. I think there are certain things, qualities of a good actor that can't be taught. Some of which I lack. I think some of the best actors, and this isn't across the board, but some of the best actors experienced some serious adversity when they were young. Unprocessed emotional trauma, things that they now carry inside of them, that even when they look at the camera or look at their scene partner, you can see a depth in their eyes of things that they've lived through. And when they bring any of that to characters, it all comes out, and there's a power to it that I've lived a relatively untraumatic life as a child when I was little, and I think that makes me need to work all the harder to develop and create characters when I'm working. Would I trade it for childhood trauma? No. I would not prefer to have been dealt
Abused.
some horrible hand as a child so I can be a better actor.
No.
But if it happened to you, you might be a great actor, and that's great. But I would rather be a happy child than a great actor, you know.
Sure.
But, you know, in terms of learning with acting, you know, I think it's really one of the reasons that I always wanted to get into psychology and always wanted to get into coaching, which I'm doing now, is that acting basically is that. It's the same exact thing, and every course I was ever in for psychology or for coaching or anything, it runs parallel, the two, because acting is really just about understanding another person's motives and perspective completely without any judgment. And when you're coaching somebody, that's what you're doing. You're providing zero judgment, or putting on zero judgment onto what they might want or what they're doing or what's holding them back, and then you work with them through their lens, and then maybe give some constructive suggestions about how to widen that lens slowly.
Well, I before we leave, I just feel the great obligation and desire to put in a good word for teachers. Teachers, and I don't mean college, I mean public school, even private school, up to the college level, are way underpaid and for the most part way underappreciated. I think it is a noble profession. I am not at all sorry for the 20 years, and goodness knows there are teachers who do it a lot longer than 20 years. But the 20 years that I devoted to teaching, I look back on very, very happily. You know, I met a lot of kids. I had, for the most part, good students, because it turned out that I got along better with smart students than with slow ones. There are those who are really good teachers with slow students. I'm not. But it was a terrific experience, and it was so utterly unexpected.
Wow.
You know, if very young I had been asked, do you think there's teaching in your future, I would have said, no, you're crazy. Certainly not. And yet that's how it ended up.
Yeah.
So I take my hat off again and again to teachers. And I would only wish, you know, when I hear corporate CEOs who pull down $5 million salary a year or $10 million salary a year, and I think, my God, you know, those people, all right, they're making money for their investors, sure, but they're making money for their investors, but are they doing any good for the world? I don't know that they are.
Yeah,
And they are so hugely richer than people on the lower pay scale who are doing things that help the world.
Yeah. I think that the teachers that I had at a young age have impacted me more than I ever expected. And I remember specific teachers, you know,
So do I.
One of the reasons I love literature is because my English teachers were were the best teachers.
Yeah.
Had they been science teachers, I probably would have gone into science. But the impact that teachers have when you're in middle school and in high school, the support that they give you, and the confidence that they give you to make mistakes.
It's very big.
Oh my God, yeah. Do you have a favorite teacher from your high school experience?
A couple.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What were the subjects?
English and Spanish, both. Yeah, the sciences and math I was not good at, but the humanity type things, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And those were, in those days, those were almost totally women. Very few male teachers. Many more today, but not then.
Yeah. I am so ever grateful for the teachers that I had as a child, because
Yeah.
they've made me a person who enjoys learning. And
Yeah.
I know it so easily could have gone the other way.
So, hats off to teachers.
Yeah. Hats off to teachers.
I hope they get more money.
Yeah, me too. All right. Stanley, I will see you on the next one.
Okay. So long, everyone. Keep cool in summer.
See you, everybody.